If you spin the globe and push through the clouds over South Asia, you find a landmass that dictates the movement of millions of people and billions of dollars in trade. You land inside a highly specific bounding box between 24 and 37 degrees north latitude and 61 to 77 degrees east longitude. This coordinate block functions as a junction point where four distinct macro regions converge: South Asia, Central Asia, the Middle East, and China. Occupying this specific space grants direct influence over the trade flow between the world's most resource-rich landlocked regions and its busiest shipping lanes. However, this same geographic advantage forces the state to secure volatile borders across some of the most rugged terrain on Earth. To understand Pakistan's economic trajectory and foreign policy, we first have to deconstruct the physical topography that dictates its behavior. This is a topographical map of South Asia. Before we look at the nations, we look at the terrain. On the eastern edge, the geography flattens out, sharing a long, heavily militarized boundary with India. This terrain is dominated by the Indus River basin. Because these shared water systems support hundreds of millions of people on both sides of the border, their management is a physical requirement for regional survival. Moving north, the plain spikes into the high-altitude ridges of the Kashmir region. The verticality here complicates troop deployments and turns geography into a permanent security obstacle. Now shift your focus to the opposite side of the country. This jagged division through the western mountains is the Durand Line, the formal boundary separating Pakistan from Afghanistan. Managing a frontier across these isolated, high-altitude valleys requires immense logistical infrastructure to prevent the spillover of regional instability. Yet, despite the harsh physical environment, this terrain is the only viable overland gateway connecting South Asia to the landlocked Central Asian republics. This east-west dichotomy traps the state in a balancing act, maintaining a heavy security presence on two fronts while attempting to keep vital trade gateways open for its neighbors. To the southwest, the environment shifts again. This is the Balochistan region, forming the border with Iran. It is vast, rocky, and intensely arid. But this desolate expanse is a vital link. It hosts cross-border cultural networks and forms the primary continental connection to the broader Middle East. From these southern deserts, the geography shoots upward. In the extreme north, the Karakoram Range forms an icy wall against China, pierced by a single physical choke point, the Khunjerab Pass. Even at freezing, low-oxygen altitudes, state infrastructure marks the exact point where these two nations meet. This highway, carved directly into the rock face, is the physical lifeline connecting Pakistan to the world's second-largest economy. Both the southwestern deserts and these northern glacial passes function as active transit nodes, proving that strategic necessity can override even the most forbidding physical geography. If we leave the landlocked borders and head south, we reach the final strategic anchor, the Arabian Sea coastline. This acts as the southern exit valve for the trade routes of the continental interior. The maritime traffic flows through three nodes: Karachi, Port Qasim, and Gwadar. Look closely at Gwadar. You see gantry cranes situated right against rocky coastal cliffs, engineered specifically to handle heavy, deep-water vessels. This coastline sits adjacent to the Gulf of Oman and the Strait of Hormuz, placing it alongside the busiest energy transit lanes on the planet. Because this proximity involves global energy security, it forces maritime defense into the core of the state's strategic calculations. Access to the Indian Ocean prevents regional isolation and turns a land bridge into a global maritime player. When you zoom out and view the entire longitudinal span of the country, you can trace a direct line from the Khunjerab Pass in the north all the way down to Gwadar Port in the south. This is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC. It is an overland bypass connecting the Eurasian interior directly to open ocean shipping routes. A corridor of this scale creates significant revenue streams from transit fees and industrial integration. But relying on a singular transit spine stretching across thousands of kilometers of difficult terrain introduces a severe vulnerability. Any local instability along this route threatens to bottleneck the entire macroeconomic strategy, making regional peace a prerequisite for economic success. CPEC is the ultimate manifestation of Pakistan's geography. It maximizes the utility of its location while exposing the state's dependence on the stability of its neighbors. If you strip away the dirt and rock, you are left with a network of connections. Pakistan sits at an unavoidable crossroads where the economic and security interests of 4 major regions overlap. Within an ethical academic framework, the concept of tarbiyah, this geographic pivot is viewed as a form of stewardship. Occupying a position that connects the fates of neighboring nations elevates a state's role beyond simple border defense. It creates a duty to prioritize cross-border cooperation and human security, using connectivity as a tool for regional stability. This leads to a final question. Is Pakistan's strategic location merely a geopolitical asset to be exploited, or does it inherently mandate a responsibility to engineer regional peace?